Toolbox by Kulture Sounds is a pretty sizable third-party expansion for Presonus Studio One. Just recently they introduced the update Toolbox Heaven, sold as an add-on for Toolbox 2. Kulture Sounds are well known for their over-the-top marketing videos, less than perfect communication with customers, missed deadlines for when they announce new products, and also for naming their flagship product after a free collection of tutorials and tools for Studio One that already existed for some time. Studio One Toolbox. I'm a fan. Today I want to show you 10 things you should know about Kulture Sounds Toolbox. Let me start by saying Kulture Sounds Toolbox is pretty much exactly what I hoped the Studio One Plus subscription would offer. And I think it fills up many holes in the standard Studio One Pro lineup. Alright, number 1. Toolbox really gets the most out of impact. Let's go into this folder. Toolbox drum kits, and it's always labeled with which version of Toolbox these presets came. TB means the first version of Toolbox, then TBR is Toolbox Reloaded, then TB2 is Toolbox 2, and then TBH is Toolbox Heaven. I think that's very nice to keep organized. Let's click on this Indie Star kit. Just some samples is not really why I'm impressed with how they handle the drums. It's more so, honestly, stock kits are all over the place. Let's look at this one, the layout, and then let's look at this one. So it's all a bit all over the place. When you switch kits, what sample is going to be mapped to which key is always a bit of a surprise. But with Toolbox, you don't have this issue at all. Club kit, everything is always in the same place. See, I can flick through here, and pretty much always they are colored the same way, they're labeled the same way. But that's not really where it stops. See this function where you can flick through samples? Currently, we are looking at a sample of this C1 kick. And if I click here, I can flick through different kicks. And it's always kicks for the Pop Master, TBPM kick, right? And there's many different kicks you can select just for one kit. And every kit has different samples you can flick through like this. The House Chemistry kit, now we have kicks of the House Chemistry kit. See this? And we have many. I don't like this one. This one's a bit nicer. This open head could be a bit longer. Let's change it. All right. I like this one. Let's get a different snare. And like this, you can really freely switch samples, but they're all genre specific. Let's compare this again to a stock drum kit, like this Smoky kit. We also have a kick sample on the C1, and we can also flick through different kick samples with these arrows, but suddenly we have perks. So you're just flicking pretty much randomly through these samples with these arrows. And the way Toolbox implemented it is so refined. I'm really impressed with this. And the sounds are pretty good. To me, sometimes they feel like they could have a higher quality. They don't sound that polished, that like they sound a bit compressed data-wise. But I'm not sure, maybe I'm just making this up. What do you think? Is this high enough quality? Do you hear any lack of potential quality? But there's many kits, as you saw. So that's number 1 that I really like. Also, let's lay down a beat. Number 2, especially in Presence, there are so many sounds, and maybe not all of them are usable for you, but it's just nice to have this wealth of sounds, samples, presets, instruments, all accessible in the stock instruments. Let's just hear some sounds. Again, very nicely organized. Toolbox instruments, bass, keyboards, synths, brass, guitars. Let's add a bass. That's nice. Don't love it. Let's check out some of the electric basses. Let's go with this one. Let's add another sound. This one is from the new Toolbox Heaven. Some things I don't like, for example, this is so short, this sound. Let's see if we up the release, what happens there. The decay. Yeah, that's a lot better. Let's add a melodic instrument. I like this. This is a bit more interesting. Let's go with this one. I think it's just inspiring, and there is many more sounds where this came from. All right, number 3, the toolbar. It's actually a pretty big thing in their marketing, but I think they're overselling it a lot. It's still kind of useful, kind of nice, depending on the way you want to work, but they're definitely overselling it. So Studio One has these macro toolbars right here. That's just how it is. That's part of Studio One. That has nothing to do with what Culture Sounds is selling. And you can get presets up here, like you can create toolbars right here. This is one that comes with Studio One. This is one that comes with Studio One. There's also a separate macro toolbar you can open down here for the MIDI editor. Let's go to music creation. For example, fill 8. Let's see what happens if we fill 8. It just fills notes in here. All right, let's go to this one, select high notes. Now it just selects the highest notes, and I could, for example, transpose them up an octave or something. That's all something that comes with Studio One already. And now let's go to the magic toolbar from Toolbox. This actually gives you access to different toolbars right in the toolbar. I think that's pretty nice. This is home. I don't want it to open up here. Yeah, they do several things that you kind of have to learn and start adding into your workflow, right? For example, let's go home. Let's go to creation tools. And now we have one-click options to add a drum set or instrument. Let's click here and it opens us a presence. Kind of nice. Let's click here. It opens Impact XT, creates a pattern, loads a kit. Kind of nice. So there's many different functions in here. It's kind of nice how they organized it. You can even load this specific kit, or let's go here, open the toolbar in the MIDI editor again, go to the MIDI editor toolbar, and we can do similar things. For example, tempo, X2. Now it's twice as fast. Divided by 2, twice as slow. We can maybe select these, say length, like this one. Length, a fourth. Kind of nice, kind of nice. It also gave me some ideas when testing these things out that I wouldn't have considered. Like, it's just a different workflow that I'm not really used to. Keep the highs, deletes everything except the highs, and then you can exit the toolbar again. It's a thing. I think it's a bit oversold, definitely. It's not bad by any means, and depending on the way you like to produce, it might give you a lot or only a very little value. For me, I could do without it. I think they did a nice job though. Let's move on to point number 4. They give you many different IRs, impulse responses, for OpenAIR, Studio One's convolution reverb. Let's drag OpenAIR on our flute from before. Try. Let's turn down the mix a bit. They give you 2 different collections, Toolbox IR Collection, Toolbox IR Units. collection gives you IRs labeled based on what they sound like. For example, church, 10 different church IRs. It's a bit loud, right? Let's hear this one. Again, dry. Definitely adds a lot. Or a spring. Let's hear the spring on the drums. Live room. But there's also the IR units, and these are named after like hardware reverb units, if I'm not mistaken. For example, some AKG reverbs, 300. I don't know these models, but if you are more familiar with hardware reverbs than I am, probably 200, 300, 960 gives you some indication to what it is supposed to emulate or what IR they captured. Gated Hall. That's cool. Since OpenAIR version 2, you have this image right here, right? But Studio One only does anything with this image with the new 3D IRs. And with the old ones, you just have this. And I think this is, again, a quality of Toolbox. They really pay attention to some details. And I don't know, I value this, that they put a nice image kind of, it gives me a vibe. I enjoy having this image right here. Sounds like this. Number 5, the carrier collection. It's also in Presence. If you go to Voices, you'll find the Vocoder carriers collection. I think this is a really good idea. They brought this out at the same time Studio One added a stock vocoder, and these are carriers that are intended to be used in conjunction with the stock vocoder. 1 second. All right, and now I'm controlling the vocoder with the Toolbox carrier. And Toolbox really curated nicely what kind of sounds could be used as a good carrier for a vocoder. Let's add a chorus. Honestly, the results I got right now with the vocoder carriers collection didn't impress me as much as I anticipated, but other times I was really happy working with those sounds. So I think I still can give them a thumbs up. Now, number 6. You maybe already kind of saw it. It's really cool to have some more presets in every plugin. EQ, Toolbox presets. Multiband compressor, Toolbox presets. Bit crusher, Toolbox presets. Let's actually use some of these presets on our sounds. Analog delay, a Toolbox preset. And in the chorus, we can also use a Toolbox preset. French touch 2. Pedalboard, Toolbox presets. Fat channel, Toolbox presets. Multiband, dynamics. On the master, Toolbox magic. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to advocate for using presets in every plugin and that's all you do when mixing. I just think it's nice to have the options. I think it's nice how thorough they were at adding something everywhere they can. That's number 6. Number 7, the macros. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like if you go to this track, for example, you go to the plugins, of course you have this view right here where you can do some routing, parallel processing, and you have this view where you can create your own macros, like edit multiple parameters at the same time with one knob. And I haven't really seen anybody make use of this except for Toolbox. And a very nice way they did this is with the new acoustic kits they introduced with Toolbox Heaven. Also, they have this button right here, which opens up the macro controller right away. You can also click right here if you don't have the toolbar. This is the TBH Acoustic Natural Kit. pretty good sounding. You can see it is multi-sampled, 11 layers, and also with 3 different sample layers. This is the direct layer, this is a room mic layer, and this is a overhead mic layer. And with these macro controls, you can adjust the volumes of the different mics. Like I can turn off the direct mics. Now we just have overhead mics and room mics. I can also turn off the overheads. Now it's just room mics. At first I was a bit confused by this being room, this being the room level and room level and room level. This is the kick room. If we turn this down, there's no more kick. This is the snare room. If you turn this down, there's no more snare. And if we turn down this one, we have no more heads. But we still have all the rest, like toms, cymbals. So it's just a bit confusing, the layout, I think. We can also use the buttons down here. Let's turn everything off except direct mics. These are all directly mic'd, right? And then we can introduce some overheads. I think it works great. Let's add some snare room, but no kick room. We can also pan the hi-hats, but they're still in the overheads, of course. So you're layering the direct mic'd panned hi-hats with the overheads. Also, kick decay, make the kick a bit tighter. I think this is an amazing way to use the macro page, and this is the best acoustic kit in Studio One at the moment, I think. Also though, honestly, sometimes I'm a bit skeptical. Do you really think they went out and recorded an actual kit? Or like, did they sample a plugin? Or what did they do? I'm just not 100% convinced that they can get this much content. Like, you saw how many presets there are in Presence. You saw how many drum kits there are. You really think they went and sampled an acoustic kit? I'm not 100% sold, but it is in here, it's pretty good, and the way they use the macros is amazing. Number 8, and see these maracas in the shape of an X, these are like things I would criticize. I already mentioned tiny criticisms along the way up to here. Let's hear this preset, TB2 Antique. Heard this? I think it's definitely a nice sound, but the loop point is not good. It's not perfect. You heard the jump in volume that happens randomly. Stuff like this is in here a bit too often. Again, if you remember the keys, we played this pad lost keys. So short, so cut off. Things like this, you won't encounter them every time you use Toolbox, but it's still some details in there that they really should refine. Then the devices. This is kind of cool actually. If we go to the production tools, I think, we have these new devices called Dimension Rider, Mayhem, Subtil, Intric Noise, Intric Bell. I haven't really explored them to the fullest, but you can see if I click here, it adds a new audio track with this beautiful macro control over many different stock plugins. Sometimes they even give them creative names to suggest what they're doing, like Huge is the OpenAIR, of course, Space is another OpenAIR, Widener is analog delay, but it always adds this device to a new track. I think that's so weird. Like if I'm on this track, for example, why can't I click devices and it adds it to the track I was working on? And when I figured this out, I thought, of course, probably they also put it in the track presets, but they didn't. So what you could do is add the device and then store this as an effects chain. And now you have saved it right here. You could even put it into the Toolbox effects chains, which they have some effects chains right here in the track presets. And then you could go right here, for example, this is kind of dry still. And then we add Dimension Rider. And the macros are still there. Let's get a bit more of this one. Then, questions about the concept. Especially in the beginning of their marketing, they always said you only need Studio One. Toolbox is supposed to make your life easier because you don't need any more third-party plugins. Everything you need is now inside of the stock plugins. We just add presets and like sounds. But now they started adding specifically content for third-party plugins like this xils Lab Poly Keyboard 3. This is a free player and they said download this. We made presets. And it's nice the way they just show up here, right? Let's hear some sounds. I don't mind it. I like collecting plugins, but I think it's a bit of a weird decision to start collabing. I'm not even sure if they really collabed with xils Lab or if they just made the presets for some plugins. These are free, the two xils Lab players and Search, and they also made presets for some paid ones. I think it's fine, but it's a bit confusing. These were the 10 main things I wanted to mention. I want to talk about 2 more things, the invisible stuff, 11, and also price. There's actually a lot more in Toolbox than I showed you. There's tons of loops in here as well. Also, I think they have like a whole chord pack in there now. Inspiration tools. They have 3,300 chords, curated chord progressions, rhythm patterns, fresh audio loops, composition tools. Also, there's even things like different metronome sounds in this, different quantization patterns. And I think I just don't care about a lot of work they did or like a lot of things they want to sell me. I don't care about. If you go to product details here, for example, the new one, does it give me any value to have chord presets? I don't know. Toolbox is now 129 euros. I think that's a pretty decent deal. And then you have to pay an additional 70 where you can get the Pro bundle, right? 158 for both together. Or like if you bought Toolbox 2 for around 130 and now you have to pay 70 to get the update to Heaven. See, this requires a Toolbox 2 license. Is the new stuff really worth 70 euros? I think this is kind of the worst price for me. I think Toolbox Pro, meaning those two together, for 160, I could kind of justify that, but 70 for just the new stuff feels kind of pricey. 70, this seems smaller than Toolbox One was, and Toolbox One was maybe 100 actually, and I got it on sale. Anyways, I'm not sure that they're pricing this correctly. This was my video about Kulture Sounds Studio One Toolbox. So the company I have some doubts about, but they always deliver. You have to give them that. They always deliver more. I'm always surprised when they drop a new update, and oftentimes the update is really good. This time around, it was also pretty good. All right, thanks very much for watching. See you again soon. Bye.